Tonight we begin in silence, on the edge of the sea, where warm winds stir the reeds of the Nile Delta, and the stars blink softly over Egypt's northern coast. The year is 331 BCE. The great conqueror Alexander the Great stands beside the water. He is just 24 years old, and yet his empire already stretches from Greece to Persia. But here, in a humble fishing village known as Rakotis, he sees something more than land. He sees legacy. Alexander surveys the coastline and traces shapes into the sand. He envisions a city like no other, a bridge between east and west, between wisdom and power, between sea and desert. It will be called Alexandria. The design, they say, came to him in a dream. A layout inspired by the Greek grid system, with wide, straight streets and harbours open to the world. He consults the famed architect Dinocrates of Rhodes, who begins planning the city fit for eternity. Alexandria was built between the Mediterranean Sea and Lake Mareotis, with its famed causeway, the Heptastadion, connecting the mainland to the small island of Pharos, where a lighthouse would one day rise like a second sun. But Alexander would never see the city finished. Just 8 years later, he would die in Babylon, far from these shores. His body, according to legend, was brought back and entombed in Alexandria, a city he barely knew, yet one that would carry his name through centuries. After his death, Ptolemy I Soter, one of Alexander's generals, took control of Egypt and declared himself pharaoh. And it was Ptolemy, not Alexander, who would plant the seeds of something even greater than conquest. He imagined a place not ruled by armies, but by ideas. He established the Mauseon, a sanctuary of the Muses, where poets, scientists, philosophers, and doctors could gather, study, and preserve all the world's knowledge. And at the heart of it was the Library of Alexandria. It began humbly, just a few scrolls acquired from Egyptian temples and Greek scholars. But Ptolemy and his successors dreamed bigger. They sent emissaries across the Mediterranean, instructing them to gather every scroll, every book, every fragment of human thought. Ships entering Alexandria's harbour were searched, their scrolls copied by trained scribes, and often kept for the library's growing collection. Some estimates suggest that over 400,000 to 700,000 scrolls were eventually stored there, representing the largest archive in the ancient world. It was more than a building. It was a living monument to human curiosity. In the cool stone halls of the library, scholars would one day study the circumference of the earth, map the stars, develop early anatomy, and compare translations of the Hebrew Bible. Here, the ancient Egyptian and Babylonian traditions merged with Greek thought, creating a rare and fragile harmony of knowledge. And so the city itself became more than stone. It became a symbol of what humanity could become when we listened to each other, shared what we knew, and preserved what we had learned. Let your breath slow now as the waves of the Mediterranean brush gently against stone. You are standing at the birth of something timeless. The light of Alexandria has just begun to glow. As Alexandria grew, so too did its wonder. The city stretched across marble avenues, its streets echoing with many tongues: Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, Latin, Aramaic. Merchants traded perfumes, papyrus, cinnamon, and scrolls. Philosophers debated under shaded porticos, and always, in the background, the sea. To guide ships safely through its harbour, the city built something extraordinary, a towering sentinel on the island of Pharos. The lighthouse of Alexandria, Commissioned by Ptolemy I and completed under Ptolemy II, the structure rose to nearly 110 meters, or about 350 feet, making it one of the tallest man-made buildings in the ancient world. Its flame was said to be visible for over 30 miles out to sea, reflected by polished bronze mirrors. It became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, not only for its scale, but for its ingenuity. Its light was a promise that Alexandria welcomed knowledge and those who carried it. And just inland, beneath that very light, stood the most ambitious project of them all, the Library of Alexandria. It was not a single building, but part of a greater complex called the Mausoleum, a sanctuary to the 9 muses, goddesses of knowledge, literature, and the arts. Ptolemy and his successors imagined it not merely as a storage place, but as a living, breathing engine of discovery. They offered free lodging and stipends to scholars, mathematicians from Athens, physicians from Pergamon, historians from Carthage. All were invited to stay, study, and write. It was the first institution that truly resembled a modern research university. The collection strategy was bold. Every ship that docked in Alexandria's port was searched for books. Original scrolls were often seized, copied by scribes, and the copies returned, though sometimes the copies were sent back, and the originals quietly kept. Over time, the library grew to contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls, some say even up to 700,000. They came from India, Mesopotamia, Phoenicia, North Africa, and the far reaches of the Greek world. Here, works of Homer were compared and corrected. Babylonian star charts were studied alongside Egyptian medicine. Texts on botany, zoology, geometry, and grammar were classified and preserved. The librarian Zenodotus of Ephesus was among the first to organize the texts alphabetically. Later, Callimachus, a scholar and poet, compiled the Pinakes, a 120-volume catalogue of the library's contents, considered the earliest known library catalogue system. Imagine walking through those halls, marble cool beneath your feet, scrolls lining cedar shelves, light filtering through linen-draped windows, a quiet hum of voices, debating ethics, astronomy, medicine. Here, science and poetry lived side by side. There was no division between philosophy and physics, no shame in asking questions that had no certain answers. The Mausoleum encouraged curiosity, but rewarded it. Let your thoughts rest now like a scroll, gently unrolling in soft hands. You are safe in the quiet heart of Alexandria, and the light of the lighthouse still shines, steady and golden, guiding you deeper into this dream. Within the walls of the Mausoleum, beneath sunlit colonnades and shaded study rooms, the Library of Alexandria grew into a sanctuary of knowledge. Scrolls lined the wooden shelves, carefully copied by hand onto papyrus, rolled tightly and labelled with small clay tags that bore the names of the works and their authors. There were scrolls from Athens and Sparta, from Babylon and Susa, from the Nile temples of Thebes, and even from India, Persia, and Carthage. The library welcomed all cultures, all tongues, all ideas. It became the largest collection of written knowledge in the ancient world. Scholars estimate that at its height, the library may have held between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls, each one a voice, each one a thread in the vast tapestry of human thought. And these were not kept in silence. They were read, studied, discussed. The Mausoleum was not a museum in today's sense. It was a research institute, a place where learning was alive and always unfolding. Here, Scientists conducted experiments, poets refined their verses, historians pieced together timelines, and philosophers debated the soul, the stars, and the nature of reality. Among the minds who walked its halls was Herophilos of Chalcedon, a physician who performed some of the earliest recorded dissections. He studied the human nervous system and described the brain as the seat of intelligence, a radical idea for its time. His colleague, Erasistratus, observed the function of the heart and blood vessels, laying the groundwork for cardiovascular science almost 2,000 years before modern medicine would confirm it. In nearby lecture rooms, astronomers charted the skies. They recorded the motions of planets, catalogued constellations, and debated the shape of the cosmos. It was here that Aristarchus of Samos first proposed that the Earth revolved around the Sun, a heliocentric theory that would not re-emerge until Copernicus revived it nearly 1,800 years later. And it was here that Eratosthenes, the chief librarian, would later measure the circumference of the Earth with astonishing accuracy, using nothing but shadows, geometry, and a patient mind. But his story is still to come. The library also nurtured literature and linguistics. Poets like Apollonius of Rhodes composed epic tales, while scholars edited and preserved the works of Homer, ensuring that the Iliad and the Odyssey would reach far beyond their own time. It was in Alexandria that the Septuagint was translated, the first Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, said to have been completed by 72 Jewish scholars working in harmony, word by word, scroll by scroll. This was a place where the sacred and the scientific coexisted, where medicine, astronomy, poetry, and theology were not kept in separate rooms, but sat side by side as equal parts of a single, wondrous pursuit. The pursuit of understanding. And now, as the candle of your mind flickers low, you can rest here, surrounded by the quiet hum of scrolls, the shimmer of starlight on ink, and the gentle breath of sleeping knowledge. The next chapter awaits, with the man who measured the earth. In the quiet heart of the library, among rows of papyrus scrolls and the soft scrape of styluses, one man dreamed of measuring the impossible. His name was Eratosthenes of Cyrene. He was a polymath, a man of many minds, a geographer, a mathematician, a poet, a philosopher. And for many years he served as the chief librarian of the great Library of Alexandria. But above all, he was curious. One question haunted him more than any other. What is the true size of the earth? Most educated Greeks already believed the earth was round, as had earlier thinkers like Pythagoras and Aristotle, but no one had ever truly measured it, until Eratosthenes. He began not with maps or compasses, but with a simple observation. He learned that in Syene, a city far to the south, near today's Aswan, there was a deep well where on the summer solstice the sun at noon shone directly overhead. It lit the bottom of the well perfectly, no shadows. But in Alexandria on that same day, a stick cast a distinct shadow, an angle of about 7.2 degrees. That was the key. Eratosthenes realized that if the earth was round, then the angle of the shadow in Alexandria corresponded to a slice of the earth's total circumference. He knew the distance between Alexandria and Syene was roughly 5,000 stadia, about 800 kilometers by today's measurement. And since 7.2 degrees is 1/50th of a circle, he multiplied the distance by 50. The result? a circumference of 40,000 kilometers, astonishingly close to the modern figure of 40,075 kilometers at the equator. And he had done it over 2,000 years ago with nothing but sunlight, shadows, and insight. He later wrote a work titled Geographica, in which he coined the word geography, the writing of the earth. He also developed one of the first known maps using lines of latitude and longitude and attempted to calculate the tilt of the Earth's axis. To those around him he was called the Beta, the second best in everything, a quiet title. But history would prove him first in many things that matter. Let your thoughts drift now like sunlight down a deep, ancient well. You are resting in the same city where the earth was first weighed and measured, not with machines, but with wonder. For centuries, the Library of Alexandria thrived, quietly, steadily, as a sanctuary of knowledge in a world often ruled by war. But even the brightest flame, if left unguarded, can flicker in the wind. The library's greatest threat was not ignorance, but history itself. Not one fire, but many. The first may have come in 48 BCE, during the political chaos of Rome. Julius Caesar, caught in a civil war, arrived in Alexandria in pursuit of his rival Pompey. He became entangled not only in warfare, but in one of history's most storied romances with Queen Cleopatra VII. As fighting broke out in the city, Caesar ordered the ships in the harbour burned to prevent them from being seized by enemy forces. But fire, once unleashed, does not follow orders. Ancient sources suggest that the flames spread from the docks to the surrounding buildings, perhaps even to storehouses of scrolls located near the harbour. It is possible that tens of thousands of manuscripts were lost in that fire. Not main library perhaps, but a valuable annex or deposit. Later writers, including Plutarch and Dio Cassius, mention the incident, but none give precise details. So we are left with questions, not answers. Some historians believe the main library survived. Others suggest it was damaged, its collection reduced, but not destroyed. And still others wonder whether the final blow came centuries later, not from war, but from neglect. For Alexandria was changing. The Roman Empire expanded. New emperors ruled with different priorities. The state no longer supported the Mauseion as generously as the Ptolemies had. Scholars began to leave. Scrolls went uncopied. Rooms once filled with debate fell into silence. Later still, as the Roman world gave way to Christian and then Islamic rule, ancient science and pagan texts were sometimes viewed with suspicion, even hostility. Some stories claim that Theophilus, a Christian bishop in the late 4th century, oversaw the destruction of remaining temples and pagan institutions, possibly including what remained of the library. Others name Caliph Omar, centuries later during the Muslim conquest of Egypt in 642 CE, as the one who finally ordered the scrolls to be burned, though this account is widely disputed and lacks credible early sources. The truth: no one knows exactly when or how the library was lost. No scroll records the last day. No witness describes its final silence. It may have faded slowly, piece by piece, as fragile as papyrus left too long in the sun. So let your breath fall gently now like ash carried on a wind long vanished. Though the fire may have come, the story is not yet over. There was no great announcement, no final scroll tucked away in silence, no last voice whispering across the marble halls. The Library of Alexandria did not fall with a crash. It did not vanish in a single night. It faded quietly. Historians still debate the moment it truly died. Some say it was Julius Caesar's fire that dealt the first blow. Others point to the gradual decay under Roman rule, when funding for the Mausoleum declined, and emperors favored politics over philosophy. By the 2nd century CE, the library had likely splintered, its scrolls scattered across smaller collections. Some were transferred to branch libraries like the Temple of Serapis, a grand shrine where sacred knowledge and religion coexisted. But in 391 CE, under the orders of Emperor Theodosius I, non-Christian temples were to be closed. The Serapeum was destroyed, and with it may have gone the last major remnants of Alexandria's scrolls. There were no new scrolls to mark the moment, no ink to say goodbye, only dust where there had once been debate. The philosophers, the physicians, the poets, many had already left or faded into time's long shadow. The world had changed, a new order was rising, and in that shift Alexandria's dream was forgotten, not by force, but by forgetting itself. Even later, writers could not agree on what was lost. By the time of the Islamic conquest in the 7th century, the great library was likely already gone, a ghost clinging to legend with only a few remaining stones to prove it had ever been real. And so the greatest library of the ancient world did not fall like a temple, but like a whisper. Let yourself rest now in the soft quiet of what once was. Even in loss there is memory, and even in silence there are echoes. What was lost in Alexandria? We may never know the full truth. Mathematics from India, medicine from Egypt, astronomy from Babylonia, early maps of unknown continents, poems from forgotten tongues. Some say even the original works of Euripides or unknown plays by Sophocles were once shelved in those halls, gone now like waves after a storm. And yet, not everything was lost. Ideas are resilient, they travel, they survive on lips, on parchment, in memories. Fragments of ancient scrolls ended up in Constantinople, in Baghdad, in the hands of Islamic scholars who preserved, translated, and expanded upon them. It was through these channels that the wisdom of Greece and Egypt would eventually flow back into Europe, helping spark the Renaissance 1,000 years after the library fell. Alexandria's fire became a kind of myth, a symbol of what can happen when knowledge is left unguarded, but it also became a beacon reminding us of what is possible when minds are allowed to dream freely. So let your thoughts flicker now like candlelight across ancient stone. There is still one chapter more, but the sleep it brings may already be upon you. Alexandria still stands, not the ancient city with its great lighthouse and marble avenues, but the name remains, etched into coastlines and memory. Archaeologists continue to search for traces. Sunken ruins beneath the harbour, columns pulled from the sea, walls believed to have once supported the Serapeum. Each fragment is a whisper, each discovery a breath. And though the scrolls are gone, their spirit lives on in every library that followed, in every quiet room where someone opens a book and reaches out across time. The Library of Alexandria was not only a place, it was an idea, a dream that knowledge belongs to everyone, that truth can be shared, and that even in silence the mind can speak. So rest now with that dream held gently in your hands. Let it drift with you into the hush of history and the comfort of sleep. Good night from the city of light that still glows beneath the sand.